I just want to set the scene for you. What is the green challenge? I think one of the things we're going to be looking at is what is the definition of green? Oft used and perhaps challenging to understand. I think we can also say the same thing for the word sustainability. It has a lot of meanings, potentially. I think people have different understandings of what sustainable is, especially in its application to varying segments of our society, whether it's the workforce, whether it's transportation, whether it's investment with your finances and for the future. Why participate? I think we can all look at ourselves and say, what would be my role in this effort? Who is an educator? Well, naturally, a lot of you are educators. But does that mean it's only confined to teachers, teaching professionals? I think we all have an opportunity to be an educator. One of the roles that I like taking on a daily basis is also being an educator. Because I think one of the roles, and I'll get into this a little bit later, very briefly, the media has a role to play as an educator as well. And it's to perhaps shine a spotlight on issues of concern, whether they be organically on their own or they're echoed through various segments of society, but also convey pertinent information to people, to feed our appetites, to get us better aware or more cognizant of the issues that we face. And what's leadership? My better half is a teacher. My mom is a professor at university. My gal's parents are teachers. Her brother's a teacher. My uncle's a teacher. Leadership comes in different forms. And I was very heartened to see this young woman, Cynthia, who is up here. And it's sensational to see leadership at such a young age. It makes me wonder what I was doing at her tender years. I think not enough. But it's encouraging to see who an educator can be, who a leader can be. And I think that reinforces that you do not need to be a certain type of person. You do not have to have a certain type of education or socioeconomic status. We can all be educators and we can all be leaders. The public's role. Here is where I think there needs to be a healthy blend of dialogue between professionals, between interest groups, environmental organizations, non-governmental organizations, the media, you name it. What information does the public have and what does it need? That is one of the things I think we're really going to shine a spotlight here today on. And what do we do with the knowledge and the energy or drive to enact change? The information can be a catalyst. It can be a motivator. It can be the reason why we decide that we need to do something different or need to do something better. But as we see in the debate over climate change, some still insist that there's no problem. And I realize it's a very difficult debate. Now, whether you believe climate change is a genuine problem or not, and there are people out there who have concerns of that or feel they're lost in the debate, we can at least say we recognize that what we do on a daily basis has an impact on the environment, and that cannot continue, whether we think it's altering climate around the globe or not. It's very clear. We're burning through our natural resources at an alarming rate. Species are going extinct here, there, and everywhere. How will this affect our land use, population, our food supply? And I think we see that in the formation or mobilization of groups, grassroots groups. And I think those that have been instigating this debate or trying to raise awareness have been the real leaders in making the public at large aware of our conundrum. And it genuinely is a problem. The media's role. Sadly, very few people, and I don't speak for everyone in the media, but I will speak of my experience and what I think we could do. The media has taken it on the chin for a number of reasons, and probably some of them very good. Is the right information getting out? Is enough time and effort devoted to raising awareness or conveying what information needs to get out there? It's debatable, but I think more can be done, and they can be done in different formats, and not just conventional ones. It can also be done virally on the web, along with radio, TV, and newspapers. There's been very little cohesion, and I know there's been genuine concern about the reliability of the information. And I think as time progresses, and I think as we hear from folks like our panelists today, I think they are going to shine a light on what sort of information we need to have and what the media can do in order to convey that, and properly. Because surely it is complex, but often the media's role in whether it be the green movement or sustainability, is best defined as a mile wide and an inch deep. Yes, people know a lot about certain issues. Well, they know of certain issues, but not a lot about them. What do we need as a society vis-a-vis information? That too, I think, needs to be defined. How do we get the right information? How do we use that information? I think this is where society, and it is doing a much better job at this, holding the media to account. Its expectations, your expectations of what needs to get out there, what needs to be shared, and how it's communicated. I think there are people genuinely aware of the situation that we're in. And I think they want to enact change. And sometimes those who could be a messenger for the general public aren't doing their job. And can the media remain neutral or unbiased and still participate in society's changes? I think when we look at things like the civil rights movement, for example, same-sex marriage, these are controversial issues. Abortion. It's very difficult to wade into this and try to remain unbiased or neutral, and yet still have feelings. And when we talk about the environment and what we need to do or what should happen, or the very basic impact that we're having on the planet, there are lots of sides to every story. But that still doesn't enable the media to, and its participants, to not get involved. And I think, as I look at the younger generation coming up in media, I think they get a sense of that. I think they have a sense of social justice. I think they want to get involved, and I think they see the value and the merit of that. That historically has not necessarily been the case. And I think the media's role is changing before its very eyes. And for those that have been in it a long time, old habits are very hard to break. Moving forward, and I think this is one of the most exciting things, establishing a timeline. What do we need to do, but in what time frame? Some would say we're way behind the curve already. As poles melt, as species die, as forests disappear, clear cuts crop up, we are behind the 8 ball, to say the least. And using somewhat obscure terminology, establishing a workflow. What do we have to do, and how will we get that accomplished? Creating effective, meaningful public policy through government. This is perhaps one of the biggest changes, and I know we're certainly going to hear from a speaker who's got terrific expertise in that. How do we create public policy that reflects what we want, our wants and desires, society's best needs, and not have to bend, barter, break, or trade for other things? Almost all effective and meaningful change comes from people just like you, in their communities, in high schools, in organizations. Very rarely does it on its own crop up in parliaments and legislatures. There's always a catalyst in the community. There's one or a handful of people that step forward to start a drive. And through communication and education, they make other people aware. And the movement starts to grow. And sooner or later, it becomes undeniable. But that volition has to be mirrored in public policy. And as a very important meeting is set to take place not too long from now in Copenhagen, the world is watching. What will the world leaders do, and how will they do it? It starts in a room just like this.